the HAPS app. Namaste, everybody. You can download the HAPS app and subscribe to me to get notified when I go live. To support my work here on the HAPS, uh, I'm using a new app called HAPS to broadcast. An exciting new platform that makes it super easy for me to simultaneously broadcast to all my social networks, including YouTube, Facebook. IG's not really working. I don't know what happens there. Maybe it goes there too. Twitter, Periscope, etc., etc. So it can all be connected to one place. Uh, yeah, so check it out. HAPS, HAPPS, in the App Store. You might find some other broadcasters that you connect with as well. So the title of my broadcast today, I'm gonna try to start keeping these broadcasts terse to the point. As my Periscope audience knows, we've gone through uh, many days where we would go hours and hours and meander and wander, which is fun. But we want to get some information out here for people that need it. So certain broadcasts, we can do the meandering ones too, but certain ones we need to keep on point. And I've been studying recently, which is a subject I've been studying for a long time, actually, not just today, but a book that some would consider probably for hospice, but it's not really. It's for the living. This book, I think it's titled "A Book About Dying" or something like that. And it takes traditions from right now. It's mostly Buddhist traditions, but I think it's going to get into Christian traditions as well, and metaphysics and theology behind the process of dying. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, the what started the hospice movement was a certain person noticing uh, that physicians were basically ignoring dying patients. It was something going on in the subconscious of the doctors and probably nurses too, especially in the Western culture, whereby if a person was close to dying or about to die, and there was nothing that we could do using our tools of science and medicine to help them, that we would sort of relegate them maybe to the back of the bus or the corner of the room. I'm sure that was happening without people realizing it because we didn't really have anything else to offer them, right? We didn't have anything else to offer them. And so we would just, based on our own weakness and our own lack of insight, just kind of let them, I don't know, maybe they would suffer more. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at specific instances of specific cases. Excuse me while I try to plug this phone in, because what happens is, what's happening is when I broadcast, if the phone is weak, it'll go dead right in the middle of the broadcast. And these Apple chargers don't really, unfortunately, half the time they don't work. Hey, Ma, you know these Apple chargers don't really work when you plug them into the chair. Do you have one that actually works, or do I need to plug it into a different part of the chair? Maybe on the side. It's like no matter where you. Will this work? Okay. Okay, that's working. Thank you. And so the history of the dying process in the West, and there's a reason I'm talking about this, and when I'm talking about treasures in heaven, there's a reason. You'll see the link here shortly. But history is, in the West, psychologically, is that we don't want to talk about it. We ignore it. We don't dive deep into that juicy subject matter, which I spent my whole life and career dealing with. It's called death. This verse in the Bible, Matthew 6:20. I spent many years thinking about this verse. It's one that became almost a mantra for me when I realized how deep it really was. It says, "Don't store for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal." And then it goes on. This is from the Berean Study Bible. I think it's an amplified version of the King James Bible, maybe. But this is what the verse says. It says, "But store for yourselves treasures on earth." I'm sorry, but store for yourselves treasures in heaven. Uh, that's verse 20. 21 says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So when I first heard that, I was very intrigued by that, and I was like, what possibly could a person store on earth through any process that happens here on earth that would go to heaven? You know, you have to ask yourself that, or you're not being honest. And if you don't know, I think to 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 break into the meaning of that verse in the Bible, you have to be honest with yourself. If you don't know, you have to say you don't know. Okay. If you you know, fool yourself into thinking that something that profound is going to easily reveal itself to the cursory viewer, the person that's sort of glancing over it and doesn't think about it ever again, except maybe once every few years when the Sunday school teacher or whoever talks about that verse. I think you're being a bit naive, you know? And I think being a bit naive is what hurts a lot of people. I think twisting reality and the truth that we see revealed to us about the nature of being in reality to fit our own fears, predispositions, languages, and cultures is one of the greatest misfortunes that has happened to theology, spirituality, et cetera, in history. And the only way to find your way out of that maze of politics, religion, language, culture, male, female, black, white, up, down, all these different things, these filters that the mind uses to interpret scripture, um, is to try to find the common thread of truth that runs through all of it and that runs through our everyday experience, that which we understand and even don't understand. I think once we follow that thread, we start slowly unraveling the core of verses like that. So if you think about life, um, what the most valuable thing in life, me personally, that I have brought with me, if I really think about it, nothing that I've had in the past, except for a few artifacts that I carried with me, a few books from college and maybe medical school that I keep in a trunk, a few artifacts survive. But for the most part, anything that I have carried with me that's of a material nature, has been lost, stolen, sold. Namaste, Gemini. What's up? My peeps coming on now. This is the first day that I've actually broadcast connected to Facebook. I was hesitant to broadcast on Facebook because historically, for me, Facebook seems to be sort of almost like a black hole where people don't seem to be as open minded to this sort of discussion. And they seem to be more into the pure social aspect. Um, but, it wouldn't be fair for me to continue to keep some of the greatest gems of my life that I have learned from people that I'm probably the closest to, and those that would be the people on Facebook, family, friends, classmates, et cetera, et cetera. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be honest. You know, yeah, it would. It wouldn't be fair. You know, like because I got a few. Because I have sometimes difficulty connecting with some of the people on Facebook. Um, Connecting as in finding a common ground where it's not something being polarized in one direction, because that's not what my desire is. My desire is not to be a polarized person. And so when I'm constantly around people that are extremely polarized in one direction, oh, I appreciate it, Jim. Some money in the collection plate. I appreciate it. I haven't figured out this. I did finally get paid on the Periscope. I got $21 sent to my PayPal. So 2 years of work, or a year. How I've been on Periscope, what, 2 years? It got me 20 some bucks. So if people think that this is a labor not of love, then they really are deluded. But this is the first day I broadcasted connected to Facebook. I the YouTube stuff is definitely going to YouTube. So my YouTube channel is Cake Plus number 8 Psycho. Don't ask me where that came from. That it was a randomly generated name, and I kept it my whole YouTube career. Cake Plus number 8 Psycho, Psycho. That is my YouTube. And so these broadcasts are now going to be stored for posterity, even when I'm gone, hopefully, for the people, great grandkids, hopefully, when they can go to YouTube to say, what did Grandpa Dr. J have to say about some of this stuff? What did he think? That's my hopes, because I never made a dime off of YouTube. That's never been my goal with YouTube, because I learned very early that Google wasn't going to pay me. So because for whatever reasons, because you don't look at your own videos on YouTube. Periscope, is it not connecting to Periscope right now? Oh, interesting. Cake plus 8, like I'll write it. Cake plus 8 Psycho. I think that's what it is. That's what it's been for a minute. Cake plus 8 Psycho. Oh no, I'm on Haps right now. PLF. I'm on Haps, so I've been broadcasting on Haps, and it's been connecting to the Periscope, Twitter. No, it ain't the same, because I think the interaction is a little different. I can see your comments, I can respond to your comments, but I think stepping up on the platform is a little different. Is a little bit different. So, but yeah, today's brief discussion, is about treasures in heaven. One of my favorite verses in the Bible. What did I say? Matthew verse 19. Is that what I said? No, I forgot. Uh, Matthew 6 verse 20. I don't know where I got 19 from. Matthew 6 verse 20. But and I'll read it one more time so people get the gist of it. It says, "Do not store for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven." I guess where moths and thieves and rust cannot destroy them, because that part gets cut off. But that's the concordance. Oh, wow, this is a good resource. I think it goes back to some of the Greek words. Uh, there's a lot of good resources on the internet. And so, yeah, the things that is the Bible astrotheology. Um, I don't know if I will condense it down to astrotheology. I think it's a lot of different things. I think the Bible is a history book. It's a metaphysics book. It's a book of the Torah is a Jewish first four books of the, you know, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, right? Is it the first five books? Is the Jewish Torah, So you can't come at the Bible wearing one hat, expect to break through it. You can't. You cannot wear one hat when you're reading the Christian Bible and make any sense of it at all. And so most people have to rely on whoever is the supposed authority around them, whatever preachers, monks, or you know. And the question about of whether they are an authority or not, that's difficult. You know, I was talking to someone 2 days ago about how bishops were supposed to have had certain spiritual experiences verified before they were ordained as bishops. The same thing was supposed to be happening in Zen monasteries. But what I read was that what's happening in Zen monasteries is the children of the monks are being initiated, and they're not having the spiritual experiences, the actual, you know, mental, conscious sort of transformations that are necessary to unlock a book like the Bible or, a Zen koan or. And so you can't read a verse like that and make sense of it without these different hats and hopefully certain experiences that will also illuminate the text for you. They say that hieroglyphs in Egypt probably aren't even to be read the same way as we read um, English. Like there may be almost like a 3 or 4 dimensional way of reading these things because certain ways of writing, like Chinese or cuneiform, it's almost wow. I don't have. It's not like noun, verb, adjective, da da da. It's not like that. It's a different way of looking at a language. A physical representation of the thing that has multi-layered meaning to it. And in some ways of thinking about language, everything is a verb. Like what does it mean to not be a verb? Well, you can become static in the universe, stop and become a noun. I'm the dog, the cat. That's naive, right? Found you, laugh out loud on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, I'm on YouTube too. You found Cake Plus 8 Psycho. That's cool. That's about 20 years worth of videos. I think it goes all the way back to when I first started doing music. It's a lot of crazy stuff there. I was doing animation, and I got some cartoons there that I made. I so much stuff on Cake Plus 8 Psycho, man. There's a lot of stuff there. But yeah, back on point. Anything that I've gained in my life and gathered through being a hunter gatherer, cars, houses, that stuff is all gone away, man. It's all gone away. So it should be rather obvious that treasures on earth, once you really penetrate and break through the essence of what life is, it's not going to bring you any lasting joy, and most likely may lead to suffering if you attach your whole persona, your whole being, to the pursuit of happiness based on a materialist approach, right? That part is not as hard, okay? But there is something that has followed me in this life that no matter what breaks down around me physically, this seems to follow me, right? What are those things? Well, me. Right? Me. I follow me. No matter what happens around me, the changes that take place in the environment, in the what houses. Yeah, I've been married multiple times. I've been around children that have gone on. They're grown ups now. My son just had a birthday. He's 28 years old now. He's moved on. He's got his own life. All these different things have happened to me. But throughout all of this, me has been there to witness it all, right? And so there's something there about what you can take with you. It seems to start with one of the first things we take with us, it appears to be our perceptions, these memories that we hold on to, this view of reality that we form. You know, oh Gemini, it's some crazy stuff on there. You could get into it, but I'm just gonna warn you before you get into it. I'm gonna warn you before you go back to my old YouTube. I can't promise you what you gonna find on that. It's like going down the rabbit hole, the Alice in Wonderland. Because this was me like testing out different skills that I wanted to develop. Music, of course, but videography, you know, all these different things. I think I got a mini movie on there. I made a small little 2-3 minute movie. It's a lot of different stuff on there, but it's fun to go back on there because it's a lot of memories on there. And now this content will also be a part of it. So I'm happy that I was able to connect it using the Haps app. Um, and now to be very practical, I will say that the knowledge that I've gained throughout my life as I move forward would have to be listed as the most valuable, because if you think about it, how could I go into the hospital and practice medicine without a constant connection to the knowledge that I've gained throughout a lifetime of study, right? And so two things seem to follow that actually seem to persist a little bit longer. My persona of myself, my mental egoic picture of myself, that seems to follow me. That's somewhat partially based on knowledge, right? And that seems to be there seems to be the potential there for that knowledge that I've gained, that wisdom that I've gained as I move forward in life to follow me. If I'm carrying a bag, so to speak, let's say I want to carry a bag. I'm trying to figure out what it is I can take to the afterlife, to heaven, if you will. What treasures can I take, right? Well, me, and there seems to be some aspect of me that is connected to the knowledge and the wisdom that I have gained in this life. Um, just bear with me, because really, I think the way to approach a book like the Bible or any other holy book or scripture or spiritual, everything's holy. Spiritual content is to contemplate it. You have to sit with it and meditate on it. What's up from Santa Fe? Redemption Periscope. How you doing again? Good to see you again, brother. But you have to sit with it and contemplate on it. You know, and in the West, because really to contemplate that verse, you have to think about what it's saying. Now, I will say this: the whole belief that heaven has to be a place that we occupy after we leave the physical body is not a universal belief. Okay, some different cultures and religions and spiritual walks believe that you can, at least in some part, occupy some portion of heaven while you're here on the earth, right? In the Buddhist belief, the Bodhisattva is a person that is not completely hasn't completely ascended into what we call, the mind of God, if you will. There's still some portion of that being, that human being, that's connected to the earthly realms, and it's for the benefit of others. This is a person that we would consider in Christianity a saint. Their being, their spiritual walk, their whole of existence is to liberate others and thus themselves, because they've come to the belief, as I slowly seem to be coming to the belief system, that to want heaven just for yourself and to be willing to leave other people behind, it smells of ego to me. It smells of selfishness. You see, there's something about that doesn't ring of true altruism and compassion. And I'll just leave that there, because honestly, the whole concept of sainthood and bodhisattva is so deep that I don't even dare touch it, because I'm working through that myself. Because when you look at the earth, a lot of people would say, if you believe in reincarnation, why would I want to come back to a hellhole like this? Right? Honestly, people say, if there's any way, shape, or form spiritual knowledge can liberate you from the hellhole that you see in front of you that we call the earth, why would anybody in their right mind want to come back to this? Okay, but then there's the understanding that the very essence of compassion and wisdom, the path itself at the highest level, is composed of those two things. And to leave one person behind and say, you know, we're not of the same nature, me and you, so you deserve to be in hell, or stuck here, or not on the boat that I'm on. There's something about that never sat with me. Even when directed towards my enemies, there seems to be an area of development that if I don't touch that area, it's gonna hold me back. In other words, not forgiving my enemies, not giving them an invite, which is difficult. But I think honestly, if these things were easy, ev- everybody would be walking around here in white robes, and we don't see that. So there's some lessons that are beyond what the mind can comprehend, but are definitely a part of this walk. So it seems like if you're gonna lay it for yourselves treasures in heaven where they can't be corrupted, they seem to be something of the essence of mind itself. And mind is composed of emotions, um, sensations, emotions, the cognitive processes that we call uh, thoughts, etc., etc. So I think following that thread gets you closer, gets you closer. What's up, Redemption? Oh, I appreciate it, man. Hey, I contemplated this all last night before I went to bed yesterday. I woke up with this in my mind. But this is the way I think you have to pray and meditate from a left brain standpoint. These things have to sit in your stomach like a good steak dinner and ruminate, sit in the acid until they're fully digested and become part of the organism itself. And I've been ruminating on that verse for decades now. You know, in certain traditions, relating now to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, uh, which has definitely influenced the hospice tradition, it is believed, it is believed that the way people from different cultures experience the dying experience and the actual realm that we will call in Tibetan Buddhism the Bardos, the aspect between being reborn and this life, is influenced 100% by your culture, your religion, your language. You may call it karma, but it basically says this: if you die and you're a Christian, the experiences you have in heaven will most likely be of Christian type experiences. If you're a Buddhist person and ask the masters that have gone on, the Bodhisattvas and the saints of Buddhist religion, to aid you in your passage, most likely is believed that will be your experience. Okay. And I find it very interesting that if I spend days and days and days playing Battlefield 5, Call of Duty, GTA, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, what's this? Oh, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, that this is very interesting. The content of my dreams will become influenced by what I spend a lot of time focusing on intensely. Okay. In times in my life when I've gone through deep meditative processes and contemplative processes spiritually, I've seen the content of my dreams be influenced by that, to the point where I've had some profound experiences in meditation during the state that you would call deep sleep. Okay, it's you can learn more about this by studying topics like dream yoga. But the states of consciousness that we occupy, the waking state, the sleeping state, the dreaming state, and a deep meditative state, are all clues that we have to follow if we're if we've gotten to that point, um, there are clues of what it means to be human, of what mind is. Okay, and you don't even have to connect the afterlife to this life because most people just aren't there yet. You don't have to do that right away. Okay, most people they can't make that connection. They definitely separate the afterlife from this life. When I was, I've learned to meditate as I fall asleep because it's a very ripe time for looking into the mind, right at the point before you become unconscious and sleep. And notice, the mind has infinite potential for creativity beyond what I can put into words. The things that I see in my mind as I'm falling asleep, as I'm trying to stay lucid, which is a process that comes from the Buddhist, a process of staying lucid, actually during the dying process, is really what's happening with the practice in Tibet, with the Tibetan Book of the Dead, because they understand that the mind is where the action takes place. In the West, we still externalize our creator and we separate him, her, it from mind. And we keep looking for some process that's going to take place outside of our perception, which to me is so laughable. It's laughable because what process that takes place outside of my perception should I care about? Okay, let me repeat that. What process that takes place outside of my perception, whether that be subconscious, unconscious, unknown, there's levels of perception, right? I don't really fully perceive my heartbeat right now, but if I sit here long enough, I can feel it. If you're a yogi, you can feel the blood running through your leg. Probably you can feel every breath coming in and out of your lungs, your heartbeat, your physiologic processes that we call autonomic. The yogi can sense those. So what you call perception happens in different levels. Okay, just because you don't aren't aware of the perception of it doesn't mean it's not in your broader sense of perception. The mind is able to perceive things far beyond what this waking scanning consciousness is able to hold on to. That's why it gets cataloged and comes out in the dreaming state. Okay, it comes out in different ways. All right, psychologically, the stuff that we bury into our mind, but it's aware. Okay, if you can believe that, then ask yourself the question. This is how this works. Okay, this is how wisdom saves you. This is how knowledge saves you. There's no magic to it. It works the way it works. What outside of my perception that I can never perceive ever should I be concerned with? Okay, and this gets you into the process of understanding that cultivating and working with the mind in spirituality, in religion, in interpersonal relationships, as a spiritual path, is really ultimately what this is all about. Okay, whether you believe in the externalized heavenly being or not, you cannot argue with the fact that any derangement of the mind, any mental, psychic funk, uh, discordance, pain, etc., is what is, the kleshas, as we call them in Buddhism: greed, anger, selfishness, pride, hatred, the poisons that modify the mind, right? They modify the mind and put you in a certain reactionary mindset, because the mind acts like that. It acts like a computer that's been programmed, right? And once it's been programmed, it defaults to the program that it knows. Okay. Anybody who studied martial arts knows this. Anybody that studied the arts in general knows this. When you're on the mat studying jujitsu and somebody does something to you, you'll get to a point where you will automatically react to that person without having to think about it. Your body will do the next right thing to keep you from being tapped, uh, uh, you know, subjugated, dominated by another person in martial arts. Okay. But that's because this is the way the mind works, period. Okay. Things get laid down like programs. Okay. That being said, um, the more we become aware of, the more knowledge and information we bring to bear on the task of learning to prevent the modifications of the mind that lead us into these states of suffering, you know, depression, that the reactionary psyche that leads us to the poisons, greed, anger, because this is a psychological reaction we have, right, to a perception that we have. Okay, so this gets. I mean, the division between psychology and religion and spirituality is artificial. Okay, everybody's not aware of this, and if you go back historically, you can see where certain, at least certain groups of monks, certainly back in ancient Egypt, but I think even after that and before that, monks were trained in different disciplines like medicine, you know, herbs, astrology for sure. You know, um, matter of fact, I think somebody read to me once. One of my friends said he read that any medical person that didn't study astrology, there was a great personality. No, what? A certain personality said that you can't consider yourself a doctor if you don't know astrology. Which I was like, wow, what a statement. But it shows you, hey, if you don't be quiet, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take your thing. I'm gonna send you upstairs. Okay? You hear me? Matter of fact, just go upstairs while I'm talking, because you're gonna keep mumbling, and he just won't be quiet. He keeps mumbling when he's playing this Roblox stuff. Um, he's distracting me. So, but so what I'm learning by restudying this process of dying, which we use when we especially in medicine, we're dealing with hospice patients with the last few days of their life when they haven't contemplated these things, and it's unfortunate because many people I think will realize too late that the treasures in heaven that they need, you know, they haven't pursued those, they haven't cultivated those, and it's the knowledge and wisdom of the state of being, and this knowledge of the state of being. So what I realized last night when I was meditating at sleep was this: what you need, the processes, the skill, the knowledge, the wisdom that you need to navigate the dying process is the exact same knowledge you need to navigate the living process. And I was like, isn't that something? Isn't that something? We're always looking out here for this key to whatever, immortality and eternal life and et cetera, et cetera. Want to be next to God. We want we don't want to be in we don't want to be in nosebleed seats in heaven. We want the front row seats and all of this. And the truth of the matter is, the way you navigate the process of dying is the exact way you should live. It's no difference. Let them who has an ear, to them who has an ear, let them hear the truth. Okay? Because it's coming as a child and understanding these things that sound so simple that they are profound to the nth degree. The person who passes through this life unaware, without cultivating compassion, without cultivating wisdom, without understanding the makeup of the mind, its layers of emotion, cognitive, you know, thought processes, how the five senses, feed this thing we call mind, and how we 100% identify with all of that as being us. Understanding that process is what helps us navigate the process of dying and living. Because in the process of living, by understanding that I don't have to be bound by this egoic view of myself in goodness, I mean in richness or poverty, in good or bad. I don't have to be bound by it. That there's something of the nature of mine that goes beyond uh, just this physical understanding, emotional. A lot of people, I think, aren't aware that this is layers of how the mind manifests. Emotion is just one layer. Cognitive processes is one layer. There's a layer below that, where there's no language, you know. Yeah, in the West, people are very afraid of it, and by not contemplating it on a daily basis, when they actually come to the process of dying, the day they die, they will not be fully prepared. So the treasures in heaven, partly, some of the treasures you have are becoming familiar with the essence of who you are, so that when you do die, it doesn't have to be this chaotic, fear-based process. Okay, so here we go. Part of you, the knowledge, the wisdom, that's your treasures. Okay, that's your treasures. And just me saying it is only the icing on the cake. What's beneath my words is an infinite amount of awareness. Okay, so I can never put into words, right? Yeah, right. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful when you truly understand that every day, every moment is a preparation for life and death. Then there's no separate preparation that has to take place, but there's certain things that we do to help and aid each other. When the Tibetans are reading from the Bardo Tadal to the dying person, they're doing that based on their understanding that the consciousness doesn't just fade out completely when the heart and the brain stops. That there's some level of awareness there, and that the person can still, uh, they may be in a state of fear, they may be in a state of bewilderment. Because what I sense the dying process is like the most bewildering dream you could ever have. And it says in the Tibetan literature that the awareness is was it 7 to 9 times more acute when you're dead than when you're alive. You're that much more aware when you're dead than when you're alive. So anything that manifests in your mind, bewilderment, fear, is going to be magnified 7 to 9 times more. So think about your worst day on earth, the worst fear you've had that day, multiply that by 7 to 9 times. This is what you may have to navigate without knowledge and wisdom and compassion if you go through life and then enter the process of transition or death without preparing. The treasures in heaven are the compassion and wisdom that we are supposed to be manifesting, not just studying, not just putting ritual and symbol and historical, that's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. But the saints, the avatars, on some level, they are all connected to the source, the same source that we are. Okay. If you want to call it the mind of God, Christ consciousness, nirvana, Buddha nature, it doesn't matter because we don't know what it is. Okay. But what we do understand is this: the mind that we have has to be cultivated a certain way and prepared a certain way. The Egyptians based their whole like existence on preparing the pharaoh to navigate death, right? But it's not a morbid preoccupation. What it is a realization of impermanence. The deepest, most profound lesson that Buddhism has to offer us is the teaching of impermanence, right? That things don't stay the same. So when you're in the process of navigating life or death, and you come across unknowns, right? What makes you okay with unknowns? What stops the fear when you're confronted with unknowns? For me, it's knowledge, wisdom, and compassion. That's what stops the fear. And the deepest realization is that the processes that are happening in life and death are all the projection of mind, whether you call it the mind of God in your mind. Well, the negative things uh, definitely need to be brought to bear, but the source of the suffering that the negative things, because without negative, there's no positive, right? Can't have a battery. Can't have a battery. In grace, yes, grace is simply the realization that this process happens far beyond what my control. I can't control this process. The process happens with or without me aware of it. That's grace. The process of compassion and wisdom bringing about the whole creation itself, and the manifestations of what we call the soul, and how this process through its own intelligence works itself out. You see, in other words, everybody eventually will taste the bliss. They will taste the bliss. They will enter the mind of God and understand his or her its love for all of us. That's grace. So that that type of wisdom allows us to forgive our enemies and ourselves. It allows us to relax and just participate, you see, and just do the work. Once you realize that the way you prepare for the next life is 100% by mastering yourself in this one, and understanding that this whole process is a mental process, there, just that understanding itself. What's up, Ann? Hello from Los Angeles. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Hope all y'all out there happy and healthy. And if not, I hope that this word can enter your heart and help ease your mind, because it has to be practiced. You see, when you're falling asleep, sometimes try to enter into deep meditative processes and notice how bizarre the mind will get. This is most likely what happens during the dying process. Whatever the mind has come across, and this is the other thing, since we share most likely a collective consciousness, it may very well be that there are concepts and mental concepts out there that aren't even mine that I have access to in the mind streams of others. It's possible. So the content that can be pulled up by the mind is infinite. And so if we're not prepared for this infinite variety of being without a physical body, we may become fearful. In the Tibetan literature that says we run from the wrathful deities. And in the Christian lexicon, that's probably called hell, you see. And maybe there's another level of that the Christians call hell. But um, this process of ignorance and fear combined are what create what we call hell. Okay, ignorance and fear and acting upon that, because that's what makes us cling to the poisons as far as our way of navigating the world. We cling to attraction, aversion, hate, pride, envy. You see, we cling to those. That becomes our vehicle for navigating this reality. Well, then of course you're going to create for yourself a mental landscape that's not that pretty. A person like that, not only did they not lay up for themselves treasures, I would say they put bombs for themselves. What's the opposite of treasure? A defilement? I don't know what the opposite of treasure is. I never really thought about it. Debt? Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, the opposite of wealth is debt. Okay, karmic debt. The karmic debt that they place for themselves into their mental processes is all the fear, you know. Right? The opposite of treasure is debt. They got to pay all of that. What's the national debt now? 21 trillion. Garbage. See, in the spiritual world, you can't have no national debt like that and just let it sit there. In the spiritual world, that garbage, that debt will be dealt with. Okay, it will manifest as something until it's worked out through the process of compassion and wisdom. Right? You have to deal with it. And so, I'm just now getting into this particular book, but I'm familiar with facts. I'm familiar with this topic because I spent my whole life sitting next to the beds of dying people and looking at myself slowly dying, and you know the fruits of the seeds you're planting now. Yes, the fruits and the seeds are the contemplation on this type of wisdom. You see, and the beautiful thing is, you don't have to, like the book I'm reading. It says that after you learn all this stuff, when you find yourself actually dying, just relax and understand that the natural wisdom that is in your mind, the light of your own consciousness as well, it will guide you through the processes as you go through Alice in the Wonderland type mental experiences that we probably call death. And the person whose heart is really grounded in compassion and wisdom, not only will they not fear the process, the sages, the gurus, they do what I call surf the process. They surf it. Like it's not, there's no fear. I don't know if it's enjoyable, but it's just a transition, Uh yeah, it's and really understanding like the mental processes. Like if you allow yourself to relax into deep states of relaxation and observation, insight, sort of meditation or stabilization meditation, I guess, you'll notice that the mind will take you different places. Okay, it may take you to places that are nice. Um, it may take you to places that are not so nice. And as soon as the mind starts going into a realm of unknown, you'll notice, if you're a meditator, you'll notice that there's a fear that comes up, right? The fear that comes up when your mind takes you places that you're not comfortable with or familiar with. This is the same fear that generates the realms we call hell. Okay, it's the same fear that generates the suffering that we inflict on each other here on earth based on politics, based on religion, based on sex, skin color. That's all the same fear packaged up and put out there in a different form. And that same fear, it doesn't just go away because I believe in a holy being. In certain practices, what the holy being knows and what you know have to become one thing. So what Jesus knew, you got to know. And not only do you have to know it, you have to become it. Okay. And so that's how you navigate the dying process in the Christian sense. But it's no different because what that really entails is a transformation of the person, a transformation of the mind from being fear based and from being clingy. Because aversion and attraction are big ones in Buddhism. Always chasing the things that you think are going to bring you pleasure and a benefit to you, and running from the things that you think are painful and not pleasant experiences, aversion and attraction. So you're right. As soon as we talk about death, um, so you guys know synchronicity, Carl Jung, right? I'm talking about death, right? On my TV right now, it says "ou la morts," right? Y'all know what morts means, right? It means death, right? "Ou la morts," and the guns are in a cross. Most recent trophy. That's so funny how the universe talks to you, right? "Ou la morts." Yeah. Now I got. What does "Ula Morts" mean? Let me see. Because I know I'm so used to synchronicity, but it's funny when it happens like that because um, it's always like a playful way that the universal mind sort of. But I gotta look it up before I go. So yes, the treasures. The treasures are what we develop in our mind as spiritual aspirants, as children of God. What we develop and bring to fruition. Like what actually, you know, what kind of engine do you really got? Right? What kind of engine do you really got? Not the one you want, but the one you got. That's what's gonna guide you through. Ula Morris meaning. Ula Morris meaning. Wow. Um, in this sense, it was sometimes associated with death, as in fraternite ula mortis, fraternity of death. Wow. Excluding liberty and even equality by establishing a strong dichotomy between those who were brothers and those who were not, in the sense of you are with me or against me, brother or foe. That's deep. Ula mortis, freedom or death. Then the motto explains vote for freedom or die, freedom or death. That's liberty ula mortis. Liberty ula mortis. Ula mortis. It's hard to find a straightforward translation of it. I gotta look it up now because ula mortis. I've studied French, but I'm not very good at it. And as you go down the rabbit hole of Google, sometimes you see a lot more translation in English. This may be a translation right here. Or death, or death, and death. Uh, anyway, yeah, it's interesting. But everything's synchronistic. Everything that's happening has a deeper meaning uh, as related to the whole and how it's affecting the whole, how it's being affected by the whole. It's just our awareness of this. But during the process of living and dying, being lucid and aware of the process and being aware that the process is taking place on a mental level, which is the child of a spiritual level, which is the child of this mystery. I feel like that pursuing that path in life and preparing ourselves through that type of grounded, insight would mean that a person could go through life, and even if they were the worst spiritual practitioner in the world, like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and you're frustrated and you never get anywhere, you never can quite master yourself, I think you can still relax. Because I think based on your heart and the direction that your heart is pointing in, being grounded in that type of wisdom, you're gonna do okay in life and in death, you know. And when we're dealing with people that are dying, I think this is the type of insight, this is the type of um, compassion we should bring to them. Because a dying person doesn't need our, you know, sorrow and our pity. They're about to they're about to embark upon the, you know, what did he say in the book last night? The same way we came in the world, leaving it is similar. Like what a chaotic process it is, right? When we leave this world, I mean, when we come into this world, and it's so tenuous, anything could go wrong. and we have so many people there to help us if we're lucky, if we're lucky, which hopefully most of us have been. People bring us into this world with great skill, right? In the West, we go to a whole OBGYN suite full of trained professionals to bring us into the world. And it takes a lot of wisdom and knowledge, especially when things go wrong. Well, the process of leaving, unfortunately, it should be, but often it's not. We're not surrounded by that same level of wisdom and insight and skill. But in some cultures, that like in Tibet, I think they're more aware of the need to, as we would say in the West, minister to the soul of the dying and give them real food, real food. Help them deal with fear. Give them wisdom. Give them compassion. You know, to help them navigate the process. And those treasures, though, those treasures that help us navigate life and death, I think also are the ones that open up the realms of heaven, whatever that may be. So for me, it's no more than a mental state. So I can experience some of it while I'm here on Earth. But if there is an external place where the soul ripens, or in some belief systems, certain ascendant masters continue their studies in a place not so, you know, difficult as the Earth. Okay, so whatever you consider heaven to be, uh, I think those are the treasures that you put for yourselves. And treasure, wealth. I guess it's where your heart is. That's what it says. It's where your heart is. You know, if all you focus on and care about is material wealth, that's where your heart is. If all you focus on and care about are others and perfecting yourself as a human being, that's where your heart is. You know, and I guess other insights I could say about treasure is that it's currency. Lose the currency, but this is something that sort of is like I want to say potential energy. Like when I look at a ball of money, when I look at it, I could say this could be a car, this could be a house, this could be maybe that's what spiritual treasure is too. You know, it opens up for us the possibilities that weren't there previously to have this existence in a non-suffering state where we of the utmost benefit to others, not just ourselves, right? Like that's potential that takes place because we prepared a certain way here on the earth mentally, you know, and then condense these down into the process of living and process of dying. You can actually directly look and see that they are taking place right now. But you have to go a little bit beyond just the surface meaning of these things for it to have any insight for you. Uh, for it to have any depth of meaning for you, you have to go beyond just the cursory glance of, you know, oh, treasures in heaven. That's nice. Boom, you move on. You going for the bag, going for the goal. That's my, but the contemplating on the process of leaving death on a regular basis, it sort of propels you to want to continue to gain this insight, to gain this knowledge, to contemplate this knowledge, and to try to become one with it so that it becomes your practice with other human beings and self. I don't really, to me, I don't see how the spiritual practice can be of any benefit if it doesn't do that. Because for me to constantly pray to something, somebody, and to still be always worried about my physical body all the time, worried about my finances, worried about what the next man got. I ain't got it. How did he get it? I didn't got it. His wife prettier than my wife. He got a better car than I got. You know, or we don't connect because of petty superstitions, which is what they are. The truth is the truth, and everything else is just super. You know, this is what that's not the path, man. To me, if I'm angry, my brother, that's on me. Okay. If I have a misunderstanding where I can't convey the truth in a way that's in my being, that's on me. You know, it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you aren't being stupid too. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, what can I change? I can't change you, right? The only way that benefits me is if the insight of what happened between me and you goes back to me, and I say skillfully, what was I lacking, or what could I have brought to bear in that situation to have a better outcome the next time? That's why we have to ask for forgiveness, because sometimes that's all we got. We don't have the skill to go any deeper than that, nor do we really need to. Okay. But the skill, when it's brought to bear, um, it really helps us grow. And then it becomes a seed, as you said, not just for ourselves, for other people as well. You see? And that's really how things change. Unfortunately, you don't see that happening a lot nowadays. People have 1,000 different reasons why they are justified in hating and not liking other people, and you're a libtard, or you're a stuffy conservative who doesn't understand reality. We're stuck in these very narrow definitions. But how narrow the definition can really get, and the broadest of definitions when it comes to the absolute is still very narrow. And if people say that they're open to learning, but when you really take a look, you should, if you're really open to learning, then you should be on a regular basis okay with being challenged by pain, suffering, unfamiliar states, familiar mental states that you haven't conquered yet. That should all be on 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 the battlefield, ready to be engaged with joyfully, joyfully, because you're not running from it anymore like other people are. You said you've taken up the cross, as we say. You said, I'm going to engage this stuff at every level, physical, mental, spiritual level. That means that you often, on a regular basis, are in unfamiliar territory when you have no left brain knowledge or clarity or wisdom to bear. Okay, because that's the point where you're going to learn. That's the point where you're going to see where, okay, my ability to concentrate and meditate and focus and see beyond attraction and aversion, emotional, responses, et cetera, is still, eh, I have more to learn. And one day I think this is what spiritual practice will be. It will be more along the lines of a psychological sort of a process, which is what it is, regardless of what you want it to be. That's really what it is. It's a process of psychologically changing, morphing ourselves into the greater and greater truth of who we really are in relation, right, to the all. And that's not something that can take place overnight. But since we don't know when we're going to die, it can happen anytime. That realization should make us practice regular on a regular basis, and be honest about what we see, what we don't see, and really push ourselves as far as our interpersonal relationships with other people, to challenge ourselves to be okay in that unfamiliar territory. Okay with you know um, dealing with anger. Stuff that we really deal with people: anger, frustration, right, disillusionment, all different things, depression, despair, dealing with humanity as a whole. That's really what we have to focus our practice on. Because the stuff that I'm really really good at. There's a phenomenon that takes place with music, with especially when you're a novice. You only want to play the stuff that you know how to play, right? You only want to play the music that you're familiar with, that you're good at, because you want to impress people. You want to sound great. You want to sound like a virtuoso. And when you sit down and you practice at the piano, when you become a true aspirant, you know that most of that sounds horrible, okay, to you, because even if it sounds good to somebody else, you hear the envelope where you're pushing it. This is where I'm not proficient. This is where I'm not good at. This is where I can't play the scales or the chords or the arpeggios technically as proficient as I can in the key of C. Now I'm in the key of B flat. Oh boy. Or I'm in the key of F sharp. Oh boy. All those black keys. Go play the scales and arpeggios on those. Play Alice in Wonderland, beautiful Bill Evans song, in F sharp. Go play it in F sharp and see if you still can play it as good as you can play it in the key of C. Most people in life want to function from the key of C. Okay. All pretty white notes. Play Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, no problem. I'm good. On to the next thing. Mm-mm. Nah, bro. All right, that's what I got for you. Hope you guys are able to chew on that, ruminate on it, and do something with it, magnify it, make it more, and have it, you know, really sink into the depths of your being. This meditation on death and dying, and how it relates to the treasures in heaven. What I say, karmic luggage. Oh yeah, yeah. What's up, man? You came in at the very tail end. Uh, I'm good, man. I'm good. Always. I was doing some deep contemplations last night on subject of death and dying. I was thinking about you too because the conversation we had about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it made me go back and do some more reading on some more different audio books I'm going through on the process of dying, and how this relates to the process of living. The process of living. So replay viewers, hopefully you got something out of that. But yeah, me and Ed were talking about this the other day because he's is the correct term a funerary director, funerary. I don't know the right word. And he deals with the dying on a regular basis. I deal with the dying on a regular basis, but it's often not a very pleasant experience because people look at hospitals as being always a solution to dying, and they're not always. Sometimes it's beyond my power and skill to aid the person in staying in this level of existence, and therefore the need for this type of insight when it comes to what exactly is dying in relation to living. What exactly are the treasures in heaven that we can bring with us in life and death? It's really, when you figure out what you need in life, what you really really need, I would press you to tell me what is it outside of wisdom that you really need. Because once you have that, it's gonna everything else is just gonna sort of unfold the way it needs to unfold. Your life is your path, your dharma is going to unfold the way it needs to unfold, effortlessly. Everything else that you're pursuing, that you think you need outside of yourself, um, is nothing but delusion. Yeah, it's sacred, and those of us in the everybody, but especially those of us who are going to be in direct contact on a regular basis with people that are making a transition, we have a duty. We have a duty to bring the deepest wisdom and insight to bear for ourselves and others, so that we can be of the most. The thing about being aspiring to be a bodhisattva, as we call it in Buddhism, is you want to be of the most, the highest level of skill and benefit to yourself and those around you. That requires certain things. Okay, that requires certain things. It requires certain insights, a certain knowledge, certain wisdom, and if you're a surgeon, certain skill. Okay, for you to be of the utmost benefit, the highest level. You know, what am I talking about? I've had people sit in front of me that are, on methamphetamines with psychosis like schizophrenia. They're angry, they're resentful, they're combative. Okay, they are completely discombobulated in their minds because, like I said, psychotic, right? Completely disorganized thoughts, not grounded in reality. And I have to sit there with that person in a room, just me and that person, and try to, you know, uh, uh, dive into the depths of what I have as far as wisdom and skill to help this person. Um, and so I'm going to tell you right now, without these type of insights and without being grounded, look. Here's the thing. Okay, anybody who's had great material success in life through in any vocation, especially in the West, society's going to pat you on the back. Society's going to tell you you're a good person because you have a certain title, you have a certain amount of money, you drive certain types of cars, you got pretty kids with all their teeth and their teeth are straight. You know, if that's how you gauge the benefit that you are to humanity, then I feel sorry for you. I do. I do, because you fell for it. You fell for the okey doke. You fell for the okey doke. Okay, the okey doke is about getting you to boot up that tax money and stay in your lane and don't ask too many deep questions. Don't question too many people who have authority. Okay, that's the okey doke. And if you play the okey doke the right way, we'll break you off a little some. What do they call it? One guy calls it in the black community. They call it the boule class. The black boule. What's what that is in the black community? I think of black people that have been appropriated and allowed to enter upper middle class white America and pretty much ignore anything that's happening in the black community for a financial benefit. That's called a boule. uh, Discipline is freedom. Of nature. Yeah, the discipline, the freedom is not being bound to uh, the reactionary nature of reality, and then not knowing the outcome, and then that generating fear. And when you're bound to that type of paradigm, that type of samsaric paradigm of existence, then that generates suffering repeatedly. You end up in a torturous state of mind. That's not freedom. That's being in prison. You know, and if you don't know what that's like, what I would say for anybody, just wait, because old age, sickness, and death is approaching for each and every one of us. And so the amount of freedom that we have is, we're talking about in the dying process. Way before we get to that, you know, we're going to be tested in this bardo of living. We call it bardo, means the place in between, right? We're always in transition from some kind of transition. Right now, we're transitioning towards our death, uh, and we'll transition in the next moment, your body physically is transitioning. Parts of you are dying, parts of you are being regenerated. So the process is happening at all times. To become acutely aware of the process without certain types of insight or some types of wisdom and practice generates confusion, fear, and suffering. And you create, as you said, you create for ourselves a sort of mental, not sort of, a mental prison. Since I believe all is gradations of mind, energy, okay? And so to not be bound by that, in that prison, it requires at first an insight, then it requires a certain type of the insight to blossom into some type of wisdom, and that wisdom has to blossom into a certain practice that is an all-encompassing mental, physical, and spiritual expression of who we are. And if that's the case, yeah, we still will feel pain when I burn my hand, but it won't bind us the same way, if you will. From what I can tell, from my own experience, the suffering doesn't bind us the same way when we're in a different place in our spiritual practice. And this is what people need to know as they move through the bardo of life toward the bardo of dying, is that this life and how we prepare is one, it is the highest level of expression of humanity. And it also is how you easily get through the transition we call death. You know, free to choose. Yeah, freedom is sort of an illusion, I guess, depending on where you're at, right? Because certain processes become reactionary or innate or programmed in Buddhism over many lifetimes. You carry the blueprints, sort of, the mechanisms are beyond what we can talk about. We can talk about it to a certain point. We can talk about thermodynamics, talk about physics. We can talk about how the universe stores information, but ultimately, how the whole thing stores this information, it really is beyond what my mind can comprehend. And so, at some point, I have to just drop off of that intellectual platform and just walk in faith, But it's not blind faith. It's not based in insight and wisdom. As above, so below. You know, in the science, say it in a different way, but yeah, the carbon and the energy that propels a star is the same energy that's inside of you. So the processes of nature that take place in space on this planet, in this universe, seem to be the same processes that create my physiology. And so, like me, and my friend said the other day, you got to take a poop or get off the pot at some point. What do you what do you believe? How can you see how many people are watching and amp? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out this app because I can't figure out how to see who's watching me, and I wonder if it's because I'm not using it properly. But give me some time. I'm gonna have to figure out what it is I'm doing wrong, because there may be something like an overlay on the screen or a different way of choosing my backgrounds on app that I'm not doing properly. Let me push this. What does that say? I can see you guys' responses though. That's good. That's a start, right? Hmm. Oh wow. Yeah, the verse that I got that I was using today, Ed, was it, where is it? Well, not Ulamore. That's a different one. Was oh no, I done lost the whole thing. Matthew 6:20. Did what was it, King James version? But lay but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. Matthew 6:20. Oh, desktop is different. Ah, okay. I'm about to go. I'm going to go to desktop.
What's this?
What is it?
Guardian.
Goldman Sachs. It's my Apple Mastercard Titanium. Goldman Sachs. Hmm. The Apple credit cards are titanium. They give you titanium cards, right? It's pretty cool, huh? I think they're made of titanium. Not sure. Some sort of durable aluminum, metal. Yeah, it's a profound verse. Profound. Because if you don't lay it for yourselves, treasures uh, in heaven, when you get there, you will be impoverished. To not have treasures means you're poor. What does it mean to be spiritually poor? Well, let's go walk around the poor and see what it's like. A lot of suffering, a lot of bewilderment, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of things that human beings try to run from. Right? So the wise man will ask himself real quick, what are the treasures? How do I get my hands on them? Right? I pencil. I pencil now. It's like a it's like an I watch, I pencil. I didn't know this thing even. I didn't know this thing even was expired because I still have my old one in my wallet. Yeah, it's difficult to dive into the depths of what's in our own hearts because as soon as we make any ground, what the ego does is it sort of wants to sit on its laurels and it doesn't want to push to the next level. And there's different ways to push to the next level. Most of them have to deal with pushing boundaries of ignorance and fear and the areas of our own being that we're not familiar with and the vastness of our own being. Getting comfortable with the vastness of our own being. And if we're not ever in contact with it because we're always afraid, uh, then there's no growth. I pencil, economic model. Ah, okay. I pencil by Leonard E. Reed. Okay, my Toyota. Are you good driving that big old truck? But you said that one was bigger than the other one. So you gonna take it through the through the car wash and put gas in it? Don't worry about putting gas in it. It's got gas in it. All right. Well, be careful. No, but we'll go pick it up. Hey Ed, I get my car today. The car we talked about before. It arrives from Salt Lake today. It'll be here sometime in the next few hours probably. This saffron ginger tea, Korean tea is really good. It looks like jelly, but it's really really good. I'll show y'all the girl sleep. Oh, saffron. I said saffron. Citron. It's really good, man. Honey, citron, and ginger tea. Served with hot or cold water. You just scoop it in there. It's really good. I think it's from Korea. It's from America. It's distributed in California, but it's a product of Korea. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, I don't know how to get people to understand that the mental and the physical, spiritual are all one thing. I don't know how to do that. I don't really spend a lot of time trying to convince people of that because honestly, that's a karmic thing. Each person has to be at a point. Oh, saffron is expensive. Yeah, they deliver it today. Yeah, I can't. How am I go? How am I going to have a conversation with somebody about spiritual matters that's that's highly that's productive when they still are, you know, grossly dividing up the three realms. They got the physical over here, the mental over here, and the spiritual over there. You can do it. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's difficult. It's difficult. You have to, you know, when you go to kindergarten, they start with ABCs, and I guess that's where you got to start there. You start with ABCs with existence. So I would start with impermanence for sure, and say and talk about the impermanent nature of reality. With a person like that, that's where you have to start with the truth. For sure, man. For sure. Take the whip out, go to the gun range, pop a few rounds off. Cowboy life. That's for cowboy life, right? He's riding around in a Porsche. Don't J.R. Ewing was a cowboy though. Don't forget from the old show Dallas. J.R. Ewing always wore that cowboy hat. Who shot J.R.? Yeah, I mean, you can't force, your paradigms, your belief systems for the people. Any investment in health is worth any amount of money. Oh, for sure. Yeah, right. Paying attention to the magic trick. That's right. That's right. Instead of the magician, I like that. That's right. Because that's what happens when watch me pull a rabbit out. Hey, Rocky. Remember Bullwinkle? Hey, Rocky. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Not again. And then what would happen? Didn't Bullwinkle try to do it and the trick would go all wrong? But how blessed to be in a in a place where you realize, at least where you need to show up for work, right? I mean, if you got a job and you can't even show up for work because you don't know where to go, how you gonna it should be unmuted now. I muted myself and unmuted myself. Yeah, if you don't know where to show up for work, man, because a lot of y'all, the work is always out here, always out here. Yeah, the work is out there, but no sound. Oh boy. Okay, I better end this then. Technical difficulties. Oh, you hear me now? Yeah, some people the work is always out here. The work is never right because this and that is the same. It's the same stuff, man. No difference. So, you know, Nowhere to go to work, man. Can't make no money if you don't show up for work. Can't get in. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, opportunity is always there. The key word there, recognized. That's it. That's what it recognized. You know, recognized, right? Recognized. So when you cognize something, you bring it into life mentally, right? Then you recognize something. That means the moment of life it had before, you extend it, right? Right? Recognize, to recognize something. Well, you have to recognize yourself, right? If not, it's a state of being hypnotized, or depending on who you read, a state of semi-death, a state of comatose stasis, right? Not being fully recognized, right? I'm gonna use that one. Recognized, recognize. I never really thought about it, but that's what the word really means. Yeah, learning to accept. Yeah, we have to accept what is, and not just the fantasies of what we want to be. Yeah, discomfort. Yeah. Well, a good point. Good part of getting old is discomfort becomes sort of almost like the daily thing. And if you have already practiced before you get old, you know, discipline and dealing with discomfort, it's not as big a deal. But if you get older and you spent your whole life running from discomfort, uh, there was a when you first go into HAPS, then there'll be 5 buttons, 4 or 5 buttons, one for Facebook, one for Instagram, one for Periscope. Oh, you mean the beam? Oh, you ain't whistling Dixie there. You mean about getting old, dealing with discomfort? This joint right here been hurting for a few days. This joint right here, that was the first one to start hurting. Why they hurting? I have no idea. And I never had problems with my hands my whole life. So it's always something new. Now I can't pick up heavy stuff the way I used to because it's just, well, it's what it is, right? I just kind of look at the stuff and laugh because I already know what's gonna happen. I already know what's gonna happen. The machine will break. Something will persist. That's what's gonna happen. Sadhguru. Oh, I know. I know about Sadhguru. Oh yeah, I listen to him all the time, man. I'm glad you found him. Oh, you serious? That's weird. Cause I gotta go see if this one ended up on Facebook. Cause I connected to Facebook today for the first time, and so I don't know if the Facebook people can see this or not. Hopefully they can. Yeah, Sadhguru is a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, and he's a profound human being. He has helped a lot of people. He's done a lot for the planet. He is obviously someone that is here in a, in a, in the in the role of a compassionate being. Here to benefit and help others, not just focus on self. And I think that's where maybe everything hinges around. Because the basis of spiritual practice is the recognition of self not being what we thought self was, right? Well, selflessness is the ability also to see that there's less of this, and what actually is, if not everything, is the connection that we have with everybody and everything around us. Us being expressed through them, us not having any expression of self without them. How can I express myself or say what I am without you? Well, if you say you're black, I guess there's white people. If you're a male, there's females, right? If you have hands, there must be a state where people don't have hands. If you have 5 fingers, it must be normal to have 5 fingers and not six. I mean, I mean, right? If you have a job to do something, then there must be people that need that thing done for. So how can you express yourself or say anything about self without everything that you say about self is nothing but an expression of everything else? That's what it really is. It's an expression of everything that it's not. That's what it is when we say something. Something is this, then you're saying everything that it's not and defining it as that. Yeah, I haven't seen. I've never been to Sadhguru in person, but I would definitely, if he came to town, I would definitely come to his seminars because he has, yoga is, you know, Buddhist meditation is a form of yoga. Facts, no embellishment, no cap. Buddhism evolved from Hinduism. The ascetic practices of Hinduism are related to yoga. Yoga may be older. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Hinduism and yoga depart or separate historically, but the ascetic practices and the renunciate practices, all of that is what was practiced for 6 years by the Buddha before he went on to deepen his mental practices. But the practices of meditating in the woods and standing on one leg, fasting, the deep meditative, concentrating to deep levels of mental clarity and insight. That's all yoga. And Buddhism takes the breath practice and the meditative practice directly from yoga historically and refines it in a way that clarifies it, makes it not so difficult, and boils it down to its essence. To me, Buddhism is no different than yoga. They're the same thing. Yoga is about altering or stopping, not altering, stopping the modifications of the mind. The word yoga means union. Union with what? Union with the truth. Union with what is. Union with the true nature of what we actually are, and not just a partial view of what we are, a partial understanding, a partial representation, partial perception. We're always satisfied with partial, because partial seems to be a way to get rid of suffering. But as soon as partial doesn't work, we look for the whole thing. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Easy texting from our company. Okay. Yeah, I ain't figured out this hap completely yet. Eddie Raffi, human equals machine. Okay. Let me screenshot that. There we go. I just screenshotted that. And there was something about I up there y'all was talking about. Let me see. That's the same thing? The I. Uh, I lost it. Pencil I. Leonard E. Here it is. Pencil I. There it is. I got it. Yeah, I'm trying to teach my wife how to invest in crypto. I think I made several $1,000s in the past week just sitting here playing video games, trading crypto on my phone. I mean, the difference in being aware and not being aware is several $1,000s while you sit on a chair and play video game. Or you can go out there and grind for it. So your choice, whatever you want to. Because I keep trying to tell her, I'm like, she wants to do certain things to make money. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that. But you can also invest in another way where you just learn how to read charts and follow trends, and you can make money that way. I mean, like I said, we get older and our thumbs start hurting. You can't be lifting no bricks, man. When you get old, you better figure another way to feed yourself. You can't be lifting them bricks forever, man. Well, let me get out of here. I got to go to the bathroom. Namaste, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with with the old man. Hopefully, something I said will help illuminate something in your own mind and your own heart. Certainly has been illuminating in mine. Ula mort. Ula mort. Ula mort.